Hi, welcome to my channel Ruby Net Crochet Tejido and to part number 2 of this beautiful kid sweater or cardigan. I hope you guys like it and give it a try, and here is the list of material you're gonna need to make it. If you are not already a subscriber, please subscribe and click on the little bell, that way you get notification each time I upload a video. Remember, I make my videos in Spanish and English. If you receive a Spanish video and you want to see it in English, go to the main page of my YouTube channel that you will find the English version in there. Also, you can send me a message and I can send you the link. And at the end of each video, I leave a playlist with all my English tutorial. Now we're gonna work in the second sleeve. I did one off camera and I took note exactly what I did for my first sleeve. Now I have to do the second one. And we're going to use the double pointed needle. These are a little bit long. I wish I have the shorter ones, but I don't. I had to order one and some in Amazon, because for this small project like this, these ones are a little bit long, so it makes things work a little bit more difficult. You're going to need a progress row marker. I made this one. I bought the little charm on eBay. It's a ball of yarn, and it says yarn in here. In this ear ring clip, and I will put a stitch below where the beginning and the end of the row start and end, because we need it for the decrease of the sleeve. Since we're working with double pointed needle, in that particular part you don't can put a stitch marker because it will fall off, so you have to put it on one stitch below. Okay, we're gonna start with the increase in here under the arm, because you see we have a separation between this stitch and this one. We have a gap. So what I did, I increased 5 stitches here, and when I did that first row, I did a decrease in here to have even number, because we're going to be working in the repetition of row 3, that is a net row. So after that row that I did the decrease, we'll have 40 stitches. We're going to work with those 40 stitches until we have to do the first decrease. And here I already wrote down everything that I did for my first sleeve, so I had to do the same for the second sleeve. So in here I marked that I did, so I put row 1 and 2, and then in the third one was where I stopped working in my sleeve, and then I mark the third one in here and row number 4. So I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14, 18, 22, 26, 30, 34, 38, 42, 48, 50 row for the sleeve. That's what I did. So I measured in William, and it was almost like 20 centimeters. So if you do it like this, you see it's almost the same length as the little sweater. Not quite. Oh, I lost my page in here. So I will do the first decrease just to have even number, that way I can work the stitch the same as the body of the piece. So each time you're gonna do the repetition of row 3, we'll do a decrease until you decrease 10 stitches. So you will do a decrease in the beginning of the row and a decrease in the end of the row. So in total we decreased 10 stitches, and we will work with those 30 stitches until it's time to finish the piece. So I count these ones as part of those 50 rows in the little change of color for the border of the sleeve, for the cuff. So that's part of the 50 stitches, rows. So that's what we're gonna do now, and keep track of our piece. And I recommend, if you're doing multicolor like this one, to try to do the other sleeve as close as you can as the first one. So I will have to cut some yarn and try to do the same amount of row of the same color. That way they're almost the same. But if you're doing this one color, you don't have that problem. You just work straight without cutting your yarn or anything. If you're doing this with a stripe or something, you'll have to match the same amount of stripe in one sleeve to the other one. Okay. Now we're gonna start putting the stitches and the needles. And now I'm gonna start with the crochet hook. I cut this strand of yarn long enough to match the same as I did for the other side, and here to have the same amount of row with the darker blue. And then I go back to the lighter color, like you see here is the lighter color. So with the crochet hook, we're gonna start bringing up the stitches, and here, so from here, make sure that you got 2 strands on top of the crochet hook. That way, if you grab one, you'll have a hole. So when this pull, it will pull 2 strands, and it will be fine. So that's 1 of 5. Make sure that you grab the tail to do this. This is 2. Number 3 is right in the center where we did those 2 stitches together. And here you grab the strand from one side and the strand from the other side. And pass it through here. That's 3. And I have to pull this stitch here to make this one and here smaller, because these tend to disappear inside. So you have to pull them in order to work them. So right now we are placing back our needles, and then we will start working row 1. That is the repetition of row 3. Okay, so I'm going to pass it through these 2 strands. That's 4. And now in here, you have to make sure that you grab 2 strands. On top of the crochet hook, you see I had 2 strands, and that will be number 5. Now you continue passing on your needle the stitches. So you can leave this one in here. I have 10 stitches in here, but remember this one is the beginning at the end of each row in the center, so we have to accommodate our stitches to have these in here, the beginning and the end. So if you pay attention, when I place the needle, you saw me removing some stitches from this needle and placing back to this one. So right in the center, the one in the center is in this one here, and the first one that I place some stitches. So I put 10 stitches in this one, 10, 10, and in this one I'll have 11, because the last two will be a decrease to have 40 stitches. Right now I have 41. So when we do the first row, these 2 stitches, they're gonna be without working the first row because they are on the other side of the yarn. But when we do the repetition of row 4, and then we'll work those 2 stitches like you're supposed to, 1 purl, 1 net, and so on. And right now I have 41 stitches, and we'll decrease this one to 40. So now we're gonna do a net row. So we're gonna start with the net row, and these 2 that we don't can work because they are on the other side at the tail, we're gonna pass it to the working needle, the empty one. We're gonna pass those 2 stitches, and then when we do the repetition of 4, you will work those 2 stitches. And then we're gonna start netting the rest of the stitches. And once you net all the stitches from this needle to this one, you will use this one to net these ones to that one, and so on. So I have 2 stitches left in here, and I'm gonna knit those 2 stitches together. And here I have 10 stitches on each needles. So now we have to work repetition of row 4. That will be 1 purl, 1 net, 1 purl, 1 net, 1 purl, 1 net, a purl and net, purl, 1 net. I'm gonna speak Spanish. And you start the next one with 1 purl again. Each time you finish with a net, you start with a purl. Finish with a net, start with a purl, and you'll finish with a net. And then you'll do repetition of row 1, that is all net. Repetition of row 2 is 1 net, 1 purl. And then you start with a net and you'll finish with 1 purl. And then when we have to do repetition of row 3, we do a decrease at the beginning, at this one, and at the end. That's why I recommend to mark where you start and end the beginning and end of the row, because the decreases end when it's time to change the stitch. Now I know that's the beginning and at the end, and as I work I will move the stitch higher. So don't get, see, if you never have worked with double pointed needle, don't get intimidated. This is my first time working with double pointed needle and a sleeve, so it will be first time for me and maybe first time for you as well. So we are at the same level in here. Because I only done 3 hats, decreasing in the top with double pointed needle. I was a little bit intimidated because I never tried before, but now I am very comfortable working with them and keeping track of my rows. That's important. And this marker will save you a lot of hard work, because you can make a mistake or skip a row, and since we work in a pattern, it's good to have a beginning and end marker. So now you're going to work in repetition of row 4, that is 1 purl, 1 net, and then so on. So it's very easy. So now we're going to work a repetition of row 4, and remember to keep track of your stitches. I already did here to know in which row I'm working. I did 1 and 2, that was from the top of the sleeve, and then here row number 3 is what I did right now. And then I wrote in Spanish here and a little arrow to know that that's the one that I start with the sleeve. And then now after I finish row 4, I will mark it like that and continue tracking my progress. So now we're gonna do a purl, and these two, remember, they don't been worked before, so they'll be a little bit loose. So purl and net, purl and net, and you continue working with 1 purl, 1 net until you have worked all your needle. So I finished repetition of row 4. Now I'm gonna start with row 1 is a net row, and then after that you'll do a row of repetition of row 2 is a net and a purl, and then when it's time to work row number 3, that is a net row, we're gonna do our first decrease 2 together at the beginning of this row and 2 together at the end of this row, because we have to keep even the stitches for the pattern. one tip that I wanted to give you, something that made it easy for me to work with this double pointed needle, is each time you're gonna change from one needle to the other one, is to the one that you just finished working, put it in the outside under. That way when you have to work between this one and this one is not in the way, because if you leave it here, you see when you're working here, this one always will be on your way of your in the way of your work. So that is a little bit of a tip. And something else, when you work like this, you don't want to have a hole or a gap between this stitch from this needle and the other one. So now we're gonna work the repetition of row 3, and that is a net row and a decrease row. So you're gonna knit these two together at the beginning. This is the marker that tell me that here is the center of the bottom of the sleeve. So when I come here, you see, and knit those two together, there's no gap in here in between this stitch and this one. So I knit these two together, and I'm going to continue knitting all the way around, and then I will finish in here with these two knit together, and the last two that I know because the marker is in here, the two at the beginning and the two at the end of this row. Repetition of row 3 is a net row. And here I mark that I did a decrease, and each time I do the repetition of row 3, I will do the same until I have 5 of these. And here 5 rows of decrease, that will be 10 stitches that we're going to decrease. From 40 we're going to end up with 30. So in here, since we decrease the first stitch, we're supposed to work repetition of row 4, that is a purl. So now the next one is a net. We have to work here, start with a net and then a purl, and net, a purl. Because if you do a purl to start here, you'll have a long piece here with net stitches, and you are not following then the instructions. So you decrease the purl, and then the second one is a net, and then the second one is supposed to be a net. And you're going to finish here with a net, and as you work, this will take the stitch shape under the arm. Okay, so we're going to start with a net because we removed the purl, and then a purl. And it's easier to guide yourself by looking at the row before where the purls are. You'll see a little bit of like a knot or a line, and where all the nets are like bees. So here I wanted to explain you why I did my my attachment of the other yarn like this, is because since I'm working a pattern, if I do the knot that usually I do when attach a new strand of yarn, it will be a loose stitch in here because I'm working in a shawl, and I did that knot, and so I'm working a net in the right and net into the wrong side. That stitch is loose, so that was something that I should thought about it, and that's why I'm doing it in here like that. And you see, your stitch is fine in here, and later you just lose those tails. So you're gonna continue working in here with one net, one purl. You got yourself by the stitch from the row before, and you can keep working. I finished the repetition of row 4. Now I had to do repetition row 1 as a net, and then row 2, and then when I had to do row 3 again is a decrease row. So let me explain it, because I'm gonna work the rest of the sleeve off camera. So in here I have 5 rows of repetition of row 3 that we did decrease. That's 10 stitches that we're gonna decrease, and then I continue working for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 row straight with no decrease, no changing color, just straight, the stitch as you're supposed to. And then after you do those 17 rows, when you had to do row 18, that is repetition of row 1, you're gonna change color, and you're gonna do a row of net with a new color, with this one in here. So remember, you have to work 5 decrease row, that's 10 stitches, because it's 2 stitches together at the beginning and 2 at the end. So you're going to decrease until you have 30 stitches, and once you have 30 stitches, you're going to work those 30 stitches with the stitch as you're supposed to for 17 row. When you finish row 17, you will start row 18 with the repetition of row 1, that's a net row, but with a new color. And then after that, you're going to work for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 row of 1 net, 1 purl, and the number 9 will be a cast off or bind off. So remember, you're going to do 5 row of decrease, repetition of 3, but you're going to decrease 10 stitches, because it's 2 stitches on each row of decrease, and that will be each time you do the repetition of row 3. And once you do the last decrease, see, it's easier if you keep track in the piece of paper. You're gonna work 17 stitches with the 17 row with the stitch as you're supposed to. I want to explain really well. And then after those 17, when you have to change color, I will meet you here to show you how we're going to change color, okay? So you're supposed to work the stitch as we've done so far. I already showed you how to do a row of decrease, so you have to keep track. Each time you do repetition of row 3, you decrease. And make sure each time you do a decrease, you look at your stitches before you do the next row and count how many net you have, or how, if the purl is very close, you then have to start with a net. So that's the only difference, okay? So I will meet you here when I have worked my sleeve and I have to change color for the cuff. And good luck. Well, we're almost done. We have to do just the cuff of the sleeve with the change of color. And I work my 10 decrease on 5 rows, and then I work those 70 rows straight. I keep track of everything that I did, write it down in the piece of paper in my notebook. And now we're going to change color, and here we're going to do a net row with a new color. We're going to go to the first stitch, leaving a tail long enough for loosing later. And you're going to knit in here and make sure that you're not netting with the tail. And now in here you can cut this one, leaving a tail for loosing. And we finish with that. And we're going to tie up the tail and the yarn, both of them together. Secure them there, and now you're going to continue netting with a new color all the way around. After that, we're going to start with 1 net, 1 purl for the cuff. Something that I wanted to mention, try to keep even numbers on each needle. That way when you do the 1 by 1 rib, you have them even. So I have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And this one I have 3, 6, 7. I had to move 1 from this needle to this one. And see if I have them even. So work this row, and then we'll start the ribbing. I finished that row, and since we did all net, all the purl stitch there on this side, you're not gonna get, you know, the 2 colors in between. So it'll be really nice and done like this one, you see. So now we're gonna do 1 net, 1 purl, and I have a stitch in this one, a in this one, and that one, and 6 in the last one. So that's the 30 stitches. If you like, you can do 10 stitches on each needle, and you'll have 3 needles with a stitch and 1 needle working them. So we're gonna start with 1 net, one purl, 1 net, 1 purl, 1 net, 1 purl. You're going to continue doing this for a row. You're going to net the net and purl the purl. And in row number 9, we cast off as we work. You can do more, you can do less row for your little cuff. But with mine, with 8 and number 9, I cast off. So I start counting these from this row, okay? This will be row 1 of 8. And then my 8 rows or rounds, and I started working with 3 needles because it was easier to have 10 on each than having just a few on each. It's easier, less needles sticking around. So now we're going to decrease, cast off or bind off in row 9. So we want to work as we did. So we're going to start with 1 net. Oops. one net, and the next one is a purl. You're gonna pass your strand to the back, and then you're gonna grab that net stitch and pass it over that purl, and you cast off or bind out your first stitch. So the next one is a net. You're gonna net that one, and you're gonna pass the one in the back and top of that one in the front and cast it off. And the next one is a purl, yarn to the front and do a purl and pass this one over the purl. And like that you're gonna continue casting off all your stitches until you have just one left. The only thing that you have to do now is loose the tails. I only had to loose the tail from that sleeve, and I will sew the buttons in this little sweater or cardigan, and I will have that, and I will show you the end result. Here I sew all the buttons, 6, and never imagine when I went to the Fiber Fest that I bought the buttons that I'm gonna use it so soon. So I'm gonna show you the amount of yarn that I have left. So from this one I have this left over. Remember I did the hat and the top accent and the bottom accent and the sleeve of the sweater. So this is what I have left from this one. And from the one that I use for the body, I use the leftover from the hat and some from this second ball of yarn. So with one of these is not enough for the hat and the sweater. You have to have a little more than that. And this is all the yarn that I was pulling in order to get the sleeve exactly the same. So they are exactly the same. So now I'm gonna put it in the little mannequin that I have that is around William's age, because William don't let me put something on and record him because he started to get cranky. He's at that age that they get cranky really easy. So I will put it on the mannequin and I'll show you the end result. Well, this is the end result, and I absolutely love this kid's sweater or cardigan. And it is a beautiful color and match perfect with the 2 hats that I did in my tutorial before, that I leave the link here at the end. So I hope you guys like it and give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you are not already a subscriber. And if you make this beautiful design and you want to send me some pictures, you can do it through my Facebook page, Ruby Net Crochet Tejido, or my Instagram, Ruby Net Crochet Tejido. Please share my video with friends and family and in groups. That way you help me grow here in YouTube. I wish you have a beautiful day. Bye.